welcome to the final episode of Sagas and Sass Season 2. I'm Tara, along with fellow host Nick. Perhaps we will be joined later by our other host, Jonathan. We're not sure yet. Nami is down for the count with a broken elbow, thanks to my wedding, which is hilarious. But anyway, this episode is our Sassy and Sexy holiday special, in which we will cover all aired episodes of the Netflix show Sex Education.
If you're watching live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sagas and Sass to continue the conversation. And just as a reminder, the views expressed in this show are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent, everyone else present on this recording.
All right. So if you're watching this and don't know what sex education is, I don't know what you're doing here, but it is a British comedy drama series. I read an article recently that called it like a raunchy feel-good series, which I'm not sure I totally agree with. Like raunchy, I think that's pushing it a bit. But so it is about, it's about a whole lot of people, really, but it basically begins with this kid named Otis, who is kind of whatever about sex, both despite and because of his mother being a sex therapist, she's like super upfront about all aspects of sexuality. And, so he is kind of whatever about it. But then he runs into the school bully who has just mistakenly taken a whole bunch of Viagra, and he helps him. And another student, Maeve, is kind of, I think she witnesses it. And so this leads to her convincing Otis that they should have a sex advice business in which their fellow students pay them for sex advice, which seems like it's in like so many ways illegal, but whatever, it's British. So, so a whole bunch happens in the 3 seasons of this show. And we're just going to kind of, I don't know, not really summarize it or whatever, but there's a lot to talk about, but probably, the most important thing that comes out of it is all of the relationships, both platonic and romantic. Actually, really, I think the platonic ones make the show. But so yeah, let me ask you, Nick, how did you get into watching this show? And then I'll talk about how I got into it, because mine was kind of weird.
Honestly, I don't have like a good story for it. It was, I think I saw a trailer or something for the first season and started watching it when it first came on Netflix and kind of just fell in love with it and have been continuing to watch it through. Just love it.
Yeah. So I think I kept seeing it on, the Netflix like home screen or whatever, or maybe it was suggested to me. Maybe it wasn't the home screen necessarily. And then of course, like season 3 came out, but I knew about it right before season 3 came out because my now officially stepson had been watching it, and he was just ranting and raving about how good this show was and how he loved this character and that character. And, I'm just kind of sitting there like taking it all in, thinking like, oh my God, my 15-year-old, my fiance at the time's 15-year-old kid is watching a show called Sex Education, and he's talking about things. And I'm like, this is my parents never would have allowed this when I was 15, but not my kid, so watch whatever you want. But then like he just kept talking about it, and finally he asked if we would sit down and watch some of it with him, and we're like, sure, why not? We'll try it out. And quickly Dean, his dad, my now husband, and I were hooked. I think the first day we watched like 4 episodes on a day where we were supposed to be going somewhere. And the only reason we stopped was because we had to go somewhere. So yeah, that was my story. We actually didn't rush through it though. We kind of like spaced it out up until the last, I want to say when we got to the end of season 2, it was just, we were so hooked that we couldn't stop. Like we were watching
at the end of season 2, you get the Romeo and Juliet musical. So
right. And the Detention Girls also, yeah. Which was such a difficult, but really good, it wasn't the whole episode, but you know what I mean? Storyline, I guess. But I mean, I will say, like when I first started watching it, I was just like, Dana Scully, what are you doing?
Oh my
because
God.
she really is just so like whatever about sex. And it's like, I grew up, you know, with Gillian Anderson as Dana Scully. So for me, it was like, what is going on here? I don't think I'll ever get over her as that character. I mean, she's amazing. She's amazing in the show. But I still feel weird sometimes when I'm like, it depends on what she's saying. You know, when she's being heartfelt and stuff, it's one thing. But when she's just doing things like reciting different slang terms for semen, it's like,
Yep.
I don't need to hear you say man milk ever again.
Yep.
And she's the only, I mean, I guess I knew Asa Butterfield from, oh, what was he in Ender's Game? Maybe he was Ender's Game, right? So I knew him kind of vaguely from that, but I didn't really know him otherwise. So it was kind of, she was the only one where I was like, ooh, what is happening here? I don't know about this. Did you
only like name?
Yeah. So you didn't really know anybody, any of the actors or whatever either?
Nope. Like you, I knew that I had seen Asa Butterfield in something else, and then I looked it up and was like, oh, right, he was in Ender's Game, but beyond that, I didn't know anybody else.
Yeah. And he was only kind of vaguely familiar. I think it took Dean saying something, and I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. That is that kid. Because, I mean, I saw Ender's Game once a billion years ago. So I guess, like, I don't know. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to get into like the relationships? I feel like getting into like the back and forth between the relationships and friendships is probably the last thing we should do because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, I guess feelings on, what are your feelings on the show as a whole? Like, what were you thinking? How did you feel while you were watching it? And like after the third season ended, you know, cause like, I'll be honest, this show brought me to tears in like both like sometimes not great ways, but mostly really good ways. Oh, like, I don't know, more times than I can count.
Oh yeah. And there's some just like, like I think about the relationship between Maeve and her mom and like how much that hurts to watch, but how I think well portrayed it is. And it's that kind of thing that, you know, even more than the romantic relationships that I think really drew me into the show and made me fall in love with these characters. Cause I do think it's a pretty, I mean, I don't know, I haven't been a teenager in a long time, but
I know, right?
It feels very realistic as a portrayal of teenagers going through some of this stuff and trying to figure out things like what to do about sex when you don't really have a lot of good guidance on that, or like how to navigate it or any of those things. And so, yeah, it makes sense that you turn to your classmates and that if somebody seems to have a good handle on things and is giving pretty good advice, then you're going to go to them and get some answers.
Yeah, for me, it's like, it's a little bit weird because I grew up in a really small town, and also my family was, you know, is pretty religious. So like, it was this combination of like, although I will say I actually had a really, really good sex ed teacher in high school. Like our sex ed teacher pushed boundaries and like was constantly getting, the school's constantly getting calls from parents, like complaining about her showing kids how to put condoms on bananas and stuff like that. Which for the mid to late 90s, that's pretty, you know, like, progressive, honestly. So she was actually really good. And, but despite having that, like, it was still, seeing this now, it's like, oh my God, is this how teenagers are nowadays? Because like most of this stuff I didn't think about or like know about, or probably didn't think about or know about until college and like maybe even middle of college. And some of it I probably didn't know about until after college. So it's like, it's a little bit scary to think like I have a 15-year-old stepkid and a 20-year-old stepkid and a 15-year-old niece and a 12-year-old nephew. And I mean, he's a little, he's still a little young, but like
Mhm.
this is what kids are coming into nowadays. And you can only kind of hope that they have people in their lives who are knowledgeable. Not obviously this is a TV show, so I don't really think that 16, 17-year-olds should be giving paid sex advice like Otis was. And honestly, so did most people didn't think he should. I mean, at some point when his mom actually started coming to the school and giving free advice, it was like, why are we paying for her kid to give us like not great advice? So yeah, it's a little bit weird in that like I actually have, kids close to that age in my life. And also the nostalgic vibe threw me off. I kept it took me like half the first season, I swear. I kept seeing their phones and knowing that this is like now, but the music and the clothes and everything was so 90s. And I was like, I didn't know if it was just a vibe they were going for, or if it's like, wow, no, that's actually like the fashion and stuff that's back in now. Cause I honestly don't know. I don't pay attention to fashion that teenagers are in, except for mom jeans, I guess.
90s fashion is back in. So that could be a part of it. And it is an interesting aesthetic. And also, I think, to your point, I think when you have a vacuum of information, you're going to try to find it in whatever ways you can. And so one of the things I loved was seeing the mom actually go into the school and start giving really good, comprehensive sex education, and how well the kids responded to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really demonstrates the need for that. But obviously, we also see very quickly how that gets, upended for her.
Yeah, fuck you, Mr. Groff.
Yeah, fuck Mr. Groff.
Like he's on. I feel like he's like on his way to a semi redemption arc or whatever. But yeah, when he releases her notes, it's like, dude, like not even thinking like that this isn't Mean Girls burn book where it's just a few girls making fun of other people.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic notes.
Yeah, it is medical information that he is releasing that is just like it. That scene was so upsetting for me because, I mean, yes, obviously it recalls the burn book from Mean Girls, but it is, like you said, like this is extremely sensitive information, and it's not just like people being catty. It's like medical issues. It is identity issues. Like the fact that this petty man does that is absolutely disgusting. Just to like get revenge on this woman who actually is trying to help him. He just doesn't understand
that. Yeah. It was really rough to watch. And of course it starts this, snowball effect where then they bring in, of course he gets let go and they bring in the new headmaster. Mm-hmm. Who I saw an article that I really liked the way the article worded this, because this new head teacher, I guess not headmaster, comes into this school, and the school has been making these progressive moves, but she comes in, and I didn't even bother looking up her name because I hate her so much, even though she also has like her own kind of tragic little thing going on where she can't get pregnant. I still just despise her because like, just because you're a miserable person doesn't mean you need to make everybody else miserable. But so she comes in and basically is trying to ruin everything. And the quote that I saw in the article was, "What is more modern than the false promise of acceptance and empathy and the backlash pushing things backwards after progress starts to be made?" And I was like, "Ooh, that is so hard. That is so hard."
Yep.
Like, too much. You know what I mean? Like, too real. But that's what it was. That's why that storyline was also so difficult because, yeah, sure, we probably haven't seen a headmaster, head teacher, whatever, releasing, private, sensitive information of basically children, to an entire school. But this very, like, all too real situation where progress is being made, social progress, sexual progress is being made, and then she comes in and ruins everything.
And it's even more, to me, in a way, it's even more upsetting because she pretends to be very like hip and like she gets it and wants to be friendly, at least with the students and everything, and then unleashes this very conservative, strict viewpoint on everyone, and also very like sexist and reductive in ways that only like somebody who pretends like they are not sexist or reductive can be.
Yeah, like the well, honestly, the whole storyline with her just war against Cal, there's more than one non-binary student in the school, but Cal is the one who is, at the forefront of this sort of fight with the new head teacher. And like, just, I can't remember also, like, I can't remember if she just straight up says, no, you have to wear like the girl's uniform, or if she eventually capitulates and says, like, you can wear the pants and but you have to, it has to be fitted. I think she eventually,
that as long as it's, but basically it's like, as long as I can tell that you are biologically female, you can wear pants.
Right.
Which is
and, so fun. Also, I have a lot of feelings about school uniforms because I do understand that they're equalizers, and that in a lot of places where there's a lot of mixing between wealthy students and non-wealthy students, it can help with the, it can help with the, like, not differentiating between those two groups in that respect. Like, oh, like, I'm wearing designer clothes and you're wearing, thrift store, like, hand-me-downs type of situation. Like, that's always the way it's been, like, portrayed to me as being positive. So I can understand where people come from with that. But the way it is, like, in this school, it is, they bring in the uniforms and like, she's really enforcing it just as like we all have to be clean cut and we all have to dress like we're supposed to dress, based on the gender that, I have assigned to you, not the gender you are, but the gender I have assigned to you. Like, really? Because so it was, the whole fight between her and Cal is like, I could just, I could see myself in those shoes back when I was maybe not in high school so much, but in high school too, I guess, but also like really like middle school when, teachers would say things to me about the fact that I was wearing like big baggy t-shirts and, just trying to hide everything feminine about my body before I kind of became okay with that might not be who I am, but this is my body sort of situation. Right. So, that really hit home for me, because I never had anybody tell me like, no, you can't wear these baggy clothes, but I definitely had teachers kind of like, well, why are you dressed like this? Like, this is none of your business. Also, who cares what I look like?
Exactly.
So that was that whole storyline with the teacher was so difficult. And now I finished the last season of the show like 2 months ago, but she gone now? Did she get fired? Right? I feel like she got fired.
Gosh, now I can't remember either. I think I finished it around the time.
Yeah. I just remember us being like, we need to talk about this show.
Yes, exactly.
I think at the end, she just throws up her hands like, well, I'm fucked. And like, yeah, she's going to be gone, which is interesting because like, now what, now who's going to be head teacher? Jean for head teacher, Jean for head teacher.
Jean would be amazing as head teacher.
But she does have like a baby now. So
yeah.
Which that's some scary, weird drama. Like that's like me at my age being like, yeah, I can have my IUD taken out. Like I'm old enough where, there's like so little chance I'll get pregnant, right? And then I'm like watching this show and I'm like, fuck it. Because how old is she supposed to be in the show? Like mid to late 40s, maybe 50? I think so.
She's definitely over 40 because they talk about that when she's pregnant.
Mm. Yeah, I want to say she's like 45 to 48. Because the way they talk about it too is that she's like way old, to be way old, quote unquote, to be having a baby. So yeah, that was a storyline. And then like in the end, Jakob is not the father, and it's like, what? Like I didn't even remember that. Somebody mentioned it to me in a conversation recently, and I was like, wait, what? He's not? I did not remember that at all. So I had to go look it up to be sure, because I was like, nah, that's not right. He totally, like, they don't know yet. But no, he's not. Do they know who then? Because like now I'm like, I know that one guy came like running up to her outside the hospital or the doctor's office at one point, wondering if it was him. But
I think it's left open. So if I remember right, she gets the paternity results and she opens them, but we don't see what they are. She said it's her reaction that tells us that Jakob is.
Yeah. And to be honest, maybe that's why I didn't really catch it, because I was like not quite paying attention to her reaction itself. I don't know, but yeah, so, and we keep like talking about these people, and I'm just, I hope that people who are watching this are like, have watched this show.
I would be really fascinated if somebody who'd never seen sex education before was like, oh, I'll watch this.
Yeah. So, the things that, I guess I'll get into like our just kind of overall concluding overall feelings of the show at the end. Yeah. But go ahead.
Sorry, I did look it up. So what happened was, you're right. Hope, the head teacher, basically just leaves. And then it's announced that the investors to the school have pulled out and they're selling it for lack of funds. And so all the kids have to find a new school to complete their last year.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I can't believe I didn't remember that giant plot point.
I know. Well, I forgot to until I looked it up. So there you go.
Although, like, in modern day, this isn't like it was like, if this sort of thing happened when we were in high school, that would be like the end of your friendships and stuff, because there was no way to communicate. Like, nobody had cell phones back then. There was no email. I mean, there was email, I guess, but I didn't have an email account that I checked regularly until like the summer between junior and senior year, I think. So,
I don't think I had an email account I checked regularly until I was in college.
This just shows our age, which I think is probably about the same time I was between junior.
Probably,
yeah. But yeah, so the one thing, because I mentioned it very briefly earlier, and I guess this would kind of go in this could lead into the friendships conversation, but I briefly mentioned the detention girls at the end of season 2 as the thing that got me I can't stop watching this show finally. And it's a really good, like, modern day Breakfast Club homage.
Yeah.
Like they're all at each other's throats at the beginning, and it's like you can't get out of here until one of you or however many of you admit to slut shaming the teacher, which, by the way, none of them had actually done. It turns out to be a Theon Greyjoy looking kid, I think. He looks like Dean said it first, and I was like, ew, you're right. And we actually looked up, like, does Alfie Allen have like a little brother? No, he doesn't. It's just this kid looks creepily like Theon Greyjoy. So, I just, it's a really, like, the fact that they all bonded over having, men be completely inappropriate with them was awful, but it was also realistic. And then they got to cathartically break things.
Yep.
And I just, like, it sucked, like listening to these stories and knowing, like, yes, of course, this is a story. This is written, this is a television show. This particular, like, scenario isn't entirely real, but I had to imagine, like, I've got to imagine there's women in the writer's room, right? And that, like, I hope that they went around and they were like, what happened to you? What happened to you? Like, because that one of those things happened to somebody. Like,
absolutely.
It's so, yeah,
real to not have.
Yeah, none of them are over the top ridiculous, like some of them aren't even like, Amy, her story about getting, sexually assaulted on the bus is like horrible and terrifying. Yeah. And, but some of the other girl stories, it's like, this isn't, they were like so real that it's like it's almost like, oh, well, that's not that bad, which, like, it's like, I know that's not the case. Obviously, I know they're all bad, and I've had worse things happen to me than some of these girls, like, we're talking about. But, like, that's the thing, like, the fact that it's like, oh, that's not that bad, because so many of us have had such worse things happen. Not that it, not that it diminishes what they went through at all. It's the fact that you can hear these stories and be like, I'm not surprised at all that there would be 6 girls, or I think it was 7 of them, might have been 7, in a room, and every single one of them had a shitty story to tell.
Which is just so realistic. And
yeah,
to your point, I think that one of the things that to me spoke, and I have no idea who wrote those scenes, but one of the reasons I would think that they are written by women is because they were grounded, they were realistic, and they weren't like, oh, let's trauma bond in that way. It was more like, no, these are just things that happen to us every day. And obviously I am male-bodied. If you're watching this, I guess it's more obvious than if you're listening to it. But every woman in my life has those stories. And I mean, I have those stories, but certainly every woman in my life has those stories. And it's fucking upsetting, but we have to acknowledge that is what happens. And I do appreciate that is one of the ways that they bonded together, because that is a thing that also happens in real life, that people share those traumas, both big and small, and they go, oh, fuck, that happened to you too. And you relate on a level that you couldn't have related on before.
Oh, I mean, one of my close friends from college, like, her and I became friends because we worked on the school's production. Well, I mean, I organized it the first year, and she organized it the second year of the Vagina Monologues. And we bonded over this exact situation. I mean, not in detention, obviously, but like, these are the traumatic things that we've been through, or crappy things that we've been through. And one of my current best friends, where I met her, I'm not going to go into details, but same thing, basically. And I'm not saying that the girls at the end of this episode were all going to be best friends, but the fact that they all were like, okay, Amy, let's go on the bus. And then, she didn't think she could. And they were like, it's okay if you can't, but she did anyway. And they all sat around her, and it was just like,
I just fucking wept. Like,
Yeah,
holy shit.
same.
That was one of those scenes. Like you said, many things in this series that made me cry. And that was one of those where it's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. And that, I guess that's a good lead into the friendship conversations, because
Yeah.
these are, you know, I hate myself. It was, okay, I got to remember how many girls it was. It was Amy, Ola, Lily, I believe was there. Viv, right? Viv is her name. Yeah, Viv. Was Maeve there? I feel like Maeve wasn't. No, Maeve wasn't there, I don't think.
She wasn't?
Hold on.
Amy was obviously there.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm looking it up because I looked it up earlier. Detention Girls, Sex Education. I know it'll come up if I put that in. Okay.
You might get some interesting search results.
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. Olivia. She was there. And Ruby, maybe? Was Ruby there? Okay, wait. Here it is. Here's the full list. Okay, Maeve was there. For some reason, I couldn't remember if Maeve was still in school at that point because she leaves for a bit, but I think that was actually season 3. Vivian, Maeve, Amy, Ola, Lily, and Olivia. So it's actually only 1, 2, 3. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's too many names here. 6. So it was 6 of them. It's just like, I'm looking at these names, but they've also got the actor's name.
Oh yeah.
You know, parentheses. And I'm like, oh my God, too much going on here. I actually forgot that Olivia was there. I don't know how. So it was Olivia and not Ruby. But yeah, so the fact that, you know, I don't think the 6 of them are going to be BFFs from now on just because of that, but it did, you know, solidify a connection between them that was really, you know, difficult and heartfelt and great. And that's kind of to me, like I said, I know we need to talk about the relationships, but the friendships are better. They honestly like just even if we go back to just these, you know, 6 girls, like start with them. Amy and Maeve, you know, I've seen comments that their friendship is like underdeveloped. We don't really have any clue how or why they became friends, and I don't disagree with that necessarily, but also, you know, it's clear from the beginning that like Amy has gotten into the popular crowd. Obviously Maeve hasn't, but they're still friends. And Maeve is over here kind of like, dude, what are you doing? Like they treat you like shit. Why? You know, and then of course, as the series goes on and Amy eventually kind of separates herself from Olivia and Ruby, you know, her and Maeve's friendship not blossoms because it was already there, but it becomes a lot more of like the focus. And I don't know, the 2 of them are just like, even when Maeve is like, come on, dude, like, why are you hanging out with people? She's never nasty about it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, you can do better than this, but you know, I'm still your bud.
Yeah. I'm still here for you, but seriously, you could do better than this.
Which I feel hardcore because I have at least one younger friend who I've been really close with for, you know, a long while. And sometimes I just want to like slam my head into a wall at their, you know, friend choices. Like, these people treat you like shit. Why are you doing this? But like, at the same time, I'm like, I'm just going to, you know, sit back and let it be, let it do whatever. I'm old enough to whatever about it.
We all know there's only so much you can say. And then like, it's up to them to figure themselves.
But yeah, it's I think what I like about it is that even though Maeve doesn't care for, you know, some of the decisions Amy makes and being friends with the people, it's basically just because they treat Maeve like, or they treat Amy like crap. It's not like, you know, oh, I don't like them because they're popular or anything. It's like they don't treat you well. You know, so it's everything about their friendship is really mature. I think, the only time it becomes like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this was when they go on the class trip to
The trip.
France,
Yeah.
and Amy asks her parents or mom or whatever to pay for Maeve. And Maeve is kind of like, why? And it's like,
And Maeve doesn't even know at first. It isn't until she finds out
yeah.
that she gets really upset.
And she gets over it pretty
Yeah, she does.
quickly.
They
Because
have
like,
that like kind of blanking on the phrase, but yeah, they have the fight and they are like speaking to each other at all, and then they both do the sort of like, I'm so sorry, no, I'm so sorry kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and the thing is, like, it's hard. Like for me, it's hard because I was never a friend that, my parents weren't always like, they weren't like wealthy necessarily, but I never really had to think about like whether or not they could pay for like a little like 2-day high school trip or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I did have friends, whose families couldn't afford that type of stuff. So, but it's like, I wasn't that person. So I don't know how I would have felt if I had been in those shoes and had a friend like, do that for me. But the thing is,
Right.
Amy wasn't trying she wanted Maeve to have the experience,
Yep.
It wasn't about, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really speak to how anybody should or would feel in that situation because I've just not been there. But I'm glad that they made up. And I certainly don't think that there was anything like outright wrong on her part
Mm-hmm.
that was done. So I'm glad they made up, and I'm glad that, not necessarily that Amy's just not really good friends with Ruby and Olivia anymore, but just that her and Maeve were able to kind of come back together and bond more throughout the series, because they'd clearly been close previously. So I do wish that we had seen a little bit more about, or known a little bit more about how and why they became friends. Maybe I missed some sort of backstory. I don't know, because there's a lot of characters and a lot going on. Okay, so since we're on Maeve, Otis and Maeve, which is also a relationship thing.
Yep.
But I don't know. Yeah, actually,
Uh,
that might need to wait for the relationship conversation, because you can't have one without the other in their situation, I think.
right. Yep.
I did like their friendship though. Like I liked how it started. It was totally
Me too.
weird, and you know, Otis Otis like eventually or very quickly, I think, crushing on her
Oh
was,
yeah, like almost immediate.
yeah, but even throughout that, they still there was a while where the friendship thing was still pretty
Mhm.
strong with them. So, but yeah, we'll get into Otis and Maeve more later, because they are kind of the, I guess, penultimate, or like they not penultimate. They are like they're the Pam and Jim. You know what I mean? The Leslie and oh my god, what was her?
Ben.
Oh, Ben, yes, Leslie and Ben, they're the couple that is going to get together eventually.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen when they do? Well, we don't know yet. Not technically anyway. So,
Yes.
I guess on the vein of Otis, Otis and Eric,
Oh
because
my god.
they're
I love
actually, I mean,
them.
really, they are the BFFs throughout.
I love their friendship so much.
I do too. And I really, really fucking hate when Otis is just not a good friend to him.
I
Like,
know. That's the thing about Otis is like, by and large, he's a good main character. But sometimes he just does some shitty ass shit, and I wanna hit him. Not like
mhm.
hit him, but like, like the way that you want to hit your friend who's like, why are you doing that? Kind of hit him.
Not even hit him, just like walk up in their face and be like,
Yeah, exactly. Just like, come on, bad dog. I lost audio, and I can't tell if it's on my end or your end. My end? Okay. 1 second.
Let's test your speed.
I don't know what's going on. I can't hear you, but I can, like... Oh, this is so frustrating. I don't know why I lost... Can you hear me? Why can't I... I'm going to try something. I hope you're doing a good job vamping, because I cannot hear anything that you're saying. But you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
It's me then.
We figured it out.
Oh my god!
Miracle.
Wow, that's so weird.
That is very weird.
Apparently that means my mic has maybe just died, which is fun because his headphones are like less than a year old and they were not cheap. Oh no. Anyway, so like 3 minutes later, we finally figured out it's not even you. Yeah, it is not you that's the problem. It's me. Wow. That never happens. It's never me. Anyway, so back to Otis and Eric.
Yes.
It's really, oh, I don't know. They're maddening.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of instances, it's mostly Otis that's maddening. Let's be real. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, they're just so cute, you know.
They are.
I just,
and even when they're maddening, I feel like it's very like teenager friendship maddening.
Well, minus the time, what was it, season 1, where they're going to see, oh my gosh, what musical is it where they're dressed up? It's not Jesus Christ Superstar. Hairspray? It's not Hairspray. Oh my god, what musical are they going to see in season 1?
I don't remember. It's not Rocky Horror.
Hold on. Musical Eric and Otis.
I'm probably just going to pull up Romeo and
Oh my god, I know. But it was season 1.
Yes, I remember what you're talking about.
oh my God, why can't I remember this musical? This is so like, ugh, whatever. They're going to a musical. They're both supposed to be dressed up in drag. And Otis bails because he is helping Maeve with something.
Yep.
And it's Eric's birthday. And like his coat and wallet get stolen and he has to like walk home and he gets attacked.
Yeah.
And it's just really, oh my God, just like,
it's so
slam your head against the wall. Why are you like this, Otis? And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, you know, where Otis doesn't put his bro before other people throughout.
Yes.
But again, realistic. So maybe it's just maddening because of that, I suppose. But still, yeah, I generally I love their friendship. It's still not one of my favorites. Probably mostly because there's just so many. I think it's the it's
Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
There you go. Thank you. I was like, I don't know why I was blanking on that so bad. So it's theirs isn't. I mean, I love their, but it's not one of my favorites only because there are so many good friendships that you don't expect in this series. So I'm leaving my favorite for last. But I mean, we already talked about Maeve and Amy. I mean, Lily and Ola, that's a friendship that is cool, but then becomes a relationship. So we can kind of show that off with Maeve and Otis for now. You know, but to be honest, like Mr. Hendricks, Colin, the actual biology teacher, and like because I was very he had his hands in a lot of pots.
He did taught a lot of stuff.
I mean, no wonder the school, like, of course they have no money. They have this poor dude teaching like sex education, maybe also biology, or maybe it was just he was a bad sex education teacher who was trying to teach biological sex. I wasn't really ever clear. He also taught music.
Yep.
So, you know, his friendship with Mr. Groff in season 3, you know, was unsuspected and kind of cute, honestly. Like, just it's part of it. I think it's part of Mr. Groff's redemption arc, if you want to call it that. So that was kind of cute, and I mean, they lived together. Like, I don't know, how did you feel when Mr. Groff walked up to Mr. Hendricks' store and was like,
I mean, I hate Mr. Groff so much, but admittedly, I think that was a very sweet scene when Mr. Hendricks was basically like, because he's such an endearing character and just like wants to be friends, and it's so good.
Yeah, he really does just like want to be. He's just a good, like, he's like a nice guy, honestly. Yeah. Like he's not very good at what he does in certain instances, like the sex education class, but you know, he's constantly trying harder, and I think that's why I like him. He's constantly trying harder in his, you know, just being, I don't know, like his relationship. We'll get into that with his relationship with Emily, the other teacher. But so okay, now we're going to get into the kind of even more unsuspecting friendships. And Mr. Hendricks and Mr. Groff was surprising, but it's also kind of like, but Mr. Hendricks is just kind of chill with everybody. So, you know, Adam and Raheem. Now, they're both, at this point, Adam is Eric's boyfriend and Raheem is Eric's ex-boyfriend. So they hate each other for a bit, for obvious. Well, no, Adam doesn't hate Raheem. Raheem hates Adam because Eric like left him for him. Understandable. But then they bond on the school trip to France. We're not. It involves human feces
We don't need to get into
So
this.
we're just not gonna get into that because that was probably the one part of the series where I was like, this is absolutely disgusting and ew and
Yep.
why and gross.
I
But
hated all of it.
they do bond and they become
Yes.
friends of a sort. And I am interested to see if or how that develops further. I did read some like things that were like, oh, there's theories that they're gonna get together. I don't really hope for that though. Like, why? Just because they're both like Adam is bi and Raheem is gay and they both dated Eric, so now they should be together. No, like I don't. I want them to just be like buds.
Yep. I agree. Yep.
And then there's Jackson and Viv.
I really like Jackson and Viv.
Me too. Me too. What I like about them is that it starts as just Jackson being like, I need a tutor,
Yep.
and she's doesn't want to help him, but then he says like, I'll help you get Robin Aaron from The Veil. that's Viv's love interest is the kid who played Robin Aaron on Game of Thrones, and like that was another one where I just at first I was like, he looks kind of familiar, and then Dean was like, that's the kid who was like breastfeeding until he was 8 on the TV show, and I was like, oh no, it is. Now I see him from like the Game of Thrones series finale, like sitting in the chair when Tyrion is all who has the best story and lies through his teeth that it's Bran.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're decide about Game of Thrones, but yeah, so she's interested in him, and Jackson's like, yeah, I'll help you get him, if you tutor me. But then they actually become friends, and when he is self-harming, and she finds out, like that was like really tough because it's like, she went to his parents, she went to his mother's, and it's like obviously he's so angry with her for doing that, but I mean, she did the right thing. I think she certainly did the right thing by not keeping her mouth shut. She went to the wrong people first. I honestly don't know, but she cared about him enough to be like, nah, you can't just. This is not okay. You're not okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had an unsuspecting. I don't know. Any additional thoughts on Jackson and Viv? Who does she wait? And she has like a boyfriend at some point, but it's not the kid she had a crush on, is it?
I don't think so. Because it's a long distance relationship. I forget how they met. Something nerdy, and it's delightful. And I like it's interesting seeing the kind of evolution of that friendship as Viv gets to be head girl, but then the issues that it then brings to Cal, and Viv ultimately standing up to Hope and kind of bringing back the friendship with, wow, names just left my freaking brain. with Jackson and really supporting Cal and the other kids at the school who needed that support.
Yeah. There's a minute where I'm just like, oh, Viv, why are you like this? But she comes around, like
she does.
Maybe not quick enough, but
it would be nice if she had come around quicker, but she does come around.
I don't even remember what it was. It was something the head teacher, like she overheard, I think the head teacher talking to somebody else, and like the way she was talking was just really over the top nasty. And okay, so here's another. This is Mrs. Groff and Jean randomly. Like, how did this even happen?
What an amazing friendship.
I still don't know, but I love these two middle-aged women going out and getting drunk and dancing with like dudes at the bar, at the club, whatever. I am totally here for Mrs. Groff. Have like being happy, you know,
Yes.
after, you know, and just the fact that she opened up to Jean saying, like, this is the problem with my relationship. And Jean said, well, you know, have you tried this or whatever? And she tries, and of course it fails, you know, and yeah, and she tells him, she kicks Mr. Groff out, and then she just, yeah, her and Jean just being like middle-aged drinking buddies. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm down for this.
I love
Even
it.
if she was still married, I'm still down for this. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes your partner is introverted and you're not, and you still deserve to have fun.
Exactly.
And maybe Mrs. Groff is, I don't know if she's introverted or not, but clearly she's far less introverted than Mr. Groff was. I think her first name is Maureen. I still don't know his first name. It doesn't matter. He's just Mr. Groff.
Yeah, he's just Mr. He's just an asshole.
All right, so there's more friendships that develop throughout the series, but a lot of them kind of like weave in and out of that relationship level. But last but not least, my favorite, absolutely unsuspecting, like Adam and Ola.
Yep.
I still don't really even know how this happened. I guess because they worked together at the store.
Yes.
But like nothing in common, you know, I guess other than the fact that eventually they both come out as bisexual.
Right.
But other than that, you know, literally nothing in common, but they both just, I don't even know. It was so stinking cute. They go break things together.
That was such a great moment when he's basically like, you want to go break shit?
Seriously, and again, like it could have just been portrayed as, oh, they work together and they're cool with each other, or oh, you know, they were both upset about relationship stuff, so they went and broke things together. But that's not what it is. The show, you know, in a very short amount of time, shows them growing to be very close.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you even after they become good friends, you're like, how are these two people friends? But it's still so adorable. They're so adorable.
Yes.
I love them.
They're wonderful.
It just, again, the you know, the show might be about the relationships, but the friendships are like just, they're what make it. Honestly.
They are. They really are. The relationships are whatever, but the friendships are like, you would not have a show if you took out all those really interesting, intriguing, sometimes very powerful friendships.
Yeah. I mean, they're sometimes, you know, and maddening too. I mean, there's also like the friendships that go bad, like Olivia.
Yes, absolutely.
That just are bad, like Olivia and Ruby.
Oh my gosh.
But generally, yes. I guess it's less the friendships that existed before the show, you know, like the ones that we come into the show knowing are already there, and more the ones that develop as we're watching, which just really sort of speaks to how well the show does.
Yeah.
You know, relationships as a whole. So speaking of that, I'm going to work backwards, I think, through sort of pseudo backwards through my relationship link. I think my relationship link, my relationship list. I can talk. List. Because I feel like some of the most powerful relationships are the ones that like I had at the end of this list. But okay, so we'll start with the teachers, because they're kind of, I don't want to call them simple, but Mr. Hendricks and Ms. Sands, Colin and Emily, they're starting
like
out
walls though. Come on, like,
huh?
They're so great.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
They're like one of the best relationships on this show.
They're great because they start out and they're just like, as the British say, shagging.
Yes.
And so they're just shagging, but you know, Emily is not getting what she wants out of it, and she tries to kind of lead Colin in the right direction, and he's not really picking up what she's putting down. And then I don't even know when it actually becomes like where he really understands like what she needs from him. But it might be that she straight up tells him like, listen, like at school all day, I'm this kind of like frumpy, just like teacher who, you know, like I do what's expected of me, whatever. But when in this situation, when I'm in bed with somebody, I want to feel like sexy. I want to feel dirty, whatever. And so he learns how to please her. He
Yep.
learns what she wants. You know, it doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen even quickly, you know, and they get to the point of like almost breaking up before it kind of, they finally mesh in that respect. But I don't know, like you're right though, they're and because like you never, even after they're like in a good relationship, like more serious and everything, you don't really know at school, like do the kids know that they're dating?
I think at
I'm
some
serious,
point
I'm
they
asking you,
do.
do they?
I think at some point. I can't remember. That's another one of those things that's like, I thought I knew the
We know,
answer, but I'm
we as the
actually not
viewers know
sure.
they are, so
I for some reason I thought that by the time they go to France that they know that, but maybe not.
yeah, I don't know. The France trip confused me too because I felt like they were supposed to be there for a couple days or overnight somewhere, but like all they do is show them going to Normandy and being on the bus a lot. So I'm still not
Yeah,
really quite sure what that was supposed to be.
right.
Um, you know,
It almost seems like they just drive down and drive back.
which you can't do. Like, of course, you know, they
Yeah.
took a ferry or probably the bullet train, whatever. Um, all right, so like continuing on adult relationships. What are your thoughts on Jean and Jakob? I have so many feelings about this, but I need to hear yours.
I I don't think that they are good together. I think that they started to get there by the end of season 3, but like I honestly I think that they spent so much time not on the same page and miscommunicating, and I don't know, like I love Jean so much, but she is so selfish and so like not thinking about anybody else. And
Yeah.
honestly, Jacob is like, he has a sweet side to him, but he's also very misogynistic and very like, this is the way that it should be. And so yeah, like it was interesting to see them starting to compromise towards the end, but I don't think they're good together.
Yeah. I think that for a time I thought that they could work even as different as they were because they could each make the other a better person. Not really change them, you know what I mean? They were changing each other, but bring out, you know, like Jean could show him this and he could, you know, show her that it is, you know, possible to be happy in a committed, you know, one-on-one relationship. If because that's the thing about Jean, it's like it's not necessarily what she doesn't ever want. I think it's more that she had a bad experience, and you know, it like yeah. So I think that I'm torn about them because he like I really like both of them as characters. And I think that he especially had room to grow and was sort of maybe on that. I think they were both on that together, but
I would buy that.
it not being her, his baby is change
Yeah, that's gonna
things.
be real awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. orphans there. I mean, them just moving in together because she was pregnant and like moving their kids in together was just like, oh, come on, man. They were both just dumb and selfish in that respect. Like, especially since their kids had dated. Like, oh my God, guys, come on, read their room.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
But yeah, I think that there's some things about him that could ground her, and there's some things about her that could help him, grow and maybe be less
evolve.
Yeah, but it was happening so slowly, and now that it's not his baby, I don't know that that's going to continue. So I guess we'll have to see. I do like him, but yeah, he definitely. Well, like you said, Jean. I love Jean, but she's also very selfish. I don't know if she ever should have had a kid. I don't know if she should be having a second kid, but also
really don't think she should be having a second kid.
Also her choice. So.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So moving into the 8 billion teenager relationships, because there's a lot of them. Some of them we can be pretty brief about. Amy and Adam roles.
Yep.
That was bad. That was very brief and very bad. Yep. Amy and Steve, they're cute. I like that after she is assaulted and she is kind of like, I don't want to like have sex or whatever. He just chills with her, Yep. He's really understanding. I know that she like fights with herself about whether or not she wants any sort of intimacy. And I can't remember if they break up in the end. I think they do, but I could be misremembering. I think it's like either they do or they do and they get back together. I'm not really sure. I'm not going to bother looking it up right now, but
I don't remember where they end up.
But I do know that throughout all of that, he was like, he was just kind of, what did they call him? He was like because he's actually like super, super smart, but he's also really athletic, right? And he has like a weird nickname, but he's really understanding of her, which is not something that most kids that age would be when their girlfriend is, just suddenly like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable having sex anymore. And I don't know that she ever really goes into detail about what happened with him. Like, I don't know if she ever really tells him the whole story, but he's still really understanding, which was really sweet. Like, that's the thing. There's a lot of like really sweet young dudes in this show, and I'm like, is this realistic? I don't know, and like, because it wouldn't have been when I was that age.
I know, right? Like, have men changed that much?
I don't know. One could hope, but I think this is also, it's also television. So, okay. What are your thoughts on Eric and Adam and Eric and Raheem?
Oh, Adam as a character is just so fucking problematic. I am glad that he has kind of been redeemed, I guess. I was very not happy about the whole thing for like all of season 2. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Adam and Eric. I'll be honest. I think they have some very sweet things. I think Adam has come a long way, but it is also hard for me to, like, I guess what it boils down to is I'm tired of the trope of the bully realizing that they are not straight, and part of the reason why they were a bully was because they were struggling with their homosexuality. Like, that is, I don't need to see that anymore. It's been done to death. It's frankly very problematic, even if it is something that happens and doesn't need to be reinforced.
I agree. I'm also just on this like weird fence thing with that. Like I agree it's a kind of overdone in media, but I also experienced it firsthand with a guy I knew from high school who was
Yeah.
very homophobic and then came out his like freshman or sophomore year of college. And he and I were close friends in high school. And so it's like, I think he did go back and apologize to some of the people that he was really nasty to. And he wasn't like a big jock.
Right.
Dating a bunch of girls or anything like that. He was just like a kid in a small school who was semi-ish popular because we didn't have football at my school. So like he ran track and he was really good at track. And, so he was semi-popular and he was in band. He was really good at band and whatever. And like he was very homophobic and he actually talked a lot of shit about some of my friends who were in theater with us, and he was pretty rude to them. Like, and one of them wasn't even like out to everybody, but it was just kind of like, even though he wasn't officially out, like most people just kind of like, we all know this person is gay, right, and it's whatever. So yeah, it's like having experienced it like firsthand with somebody who I was friends with, it's like, yeah, that shit really does happen. And I think that it's important for it to be portrayed as long as it's done properly. And I think with Adam, the thing that I'm torn about is that he kind of, he literally goes from like point A to point Z, right. And
like literally he's in a scene where he's beating up Eric and then starts like sucking him off. Like,
yeah.
And I agree with you that there are ways to portray that and that it is a very real thing that has absolutely happened. And there are people that is applicable for, but I've also just seen it happen in media so often that it is not necessarily something that I need to see portrayed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would much rather see more characters like Eric and Raheem who are finding themselves while also being themselves. Or to see stories about people who are coming out of the closet in other ways. Or to see stories about people who are bisexual and who are not former bullies who specifically targeted people who were not straight. Like there's so many stories that you can tell about a queer community. Why do we need that story?
Is well, what I guess like the fault also lies in the Eric part of that storyline because
yes, absolutely. That's the like the one thing that I really have a problem with Eric is all of that.
Yeah, like falling for your bully and then leaving the guy who is and listen, like not being with somebody because you don't feel they're right for you is one thing, but yeah, that whole situation with Raheem, who is so good to him, and then like Adam just like walks up on stage at the Romeo and Juliet space sex musical.
Also, how dare you interrupt that masterpiece?
Oh,
I'll never forgive you, Adam.
Seriously, that whole thing, Lily. Okay. So speaking of Lily, first of all, we're just gonna,
oh my God,
there's my cat in my face. We're just gonna talk about Lily for like a moment. Because just by herself, like the eventual conversation is her relationship with Ola. But there was that whole like they gave some of Lily's backstory about how she was writing, dirty stories when she was like really young. And it's just like, and the teachers and everything were just stamping her creative energy because it wasn't proper. And all I can think of is like all my friends who you like, and I mean, I wrote fanfic for a while too, but I was a lot older when I actually started writing fanfic. But I have a lot of friends who wrote it when they were younger, and it's like, yeah, the you know, what she was writing were originals. What Lily was writing was original stories, but it doesn't matter. It was all like this sci-fi, you know, sexual whatever, like too old for her age. She shouldn't be writing this. Blah 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 blah. And I just like I respected her so much for being her own person, and she continued. She never really like, except for the period of time when, you know, new head teacher who shall not be named was like making them all wear normal hair and stuff like that. She really never, even then, she only did it because she didn't want to get kicked out of school, right? She never like became this sort of mainstream person, right? She was just her, like unapologetically, unabashedly her. And I really like it's I really loved her for that, because it's like, minus probably I probably wouldn't have written like sex, you know, theme stories when I was like really young. I just didn't know enough at that point. But mine, like outside of that, you know, she's that like unapologetic geek that I mean, that nowadays we're kind of allowed to be, but we weren't allowed to be when we were younger. So I had just this like immense amount of respect for her, and how all she wanted to do was lose her damn virginity. And she tried so hard.
Oh my God, poor Lily. So all she wants is to get fucked, y'all.
And just
and for there to be tentacles.
Comedy of errors.
Yeah.
And when her and Ola, you know, they were friends. They were friends first. And that was something I saw somewhere where it's like people were saying their relationship wasn't believable. And I was like, why?
That's absolutely the kind of relationship that's believable. Like, yeah.
They were friends. They cared about her. They cared about each other. Ola was, I think, more like openly bi. And then, you know, Lily was like, oh, well, I guess me too. You know, I really liked their relationship. You know, I think Ola maybe stepped over the line a little bit when she was like, no, that's not even true. There were things that Ola didn't handle the best after they'd been together for a while. And she was like, yeah, can we just like do regular sex for a minute and not like with the alien stuff? And I think that she could have handled that better, but they're also kids. So like, of course she didn't handle it better. You know what I mean? So they are back together at the end of the show, I believe. Like,
are they?
Kind of, I thought so. Well, they definitely come to terms with each other.
Yes.
About you know, about everything that happened, whatever. And yeah, I mean, at the very least, it was a healthy relationship.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
Which, you know, is kind of a toss-up in this series. I mean, we talked about Eric and Adam obviously aren't healthy. Jean and Jakob aren't super healthy. Lily and Ola are probably one of, no matter what happened between them or happens with them in the future, I do think it was a healthy relationship, especially being portrayed like with kids that age. Healthier than it could have been, for sure. So what about Jackson and Cal? And this is one of those, it never actually becomes a relationship, but I put it in the relationship category because I think they were both interested in each other. They were very good friends. I fucking loved their friendship.
Yes.
They were both interested in each other, and I'm still torn about.
I love the way that Cal handled that.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. Like they're both interested in each other, but what did they say? That, I don't even really know who I am, and I'm not sure I can be, with somebody if I don't even know who I am. I feel like it was something like that.
Well, it was also one of their points was that they felt like Jackson only saw them as a girl, even if even if Jackson acknowledged that they were non-binary. And so what you were saying, like while they were still trying to figure out who they were, they didn't want to be in a relationship with somebody who was still kind of thinking of them as a girl, and that sex with them would be having sex with a girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but here's the thing, like I don't I guess, like, is there any way for us to really know that? Oh, he was feeling her up, wasn't he? Feeling them up, wasn't he? I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah.
He was feeling them up, and that was okay. Because I was like, is there any way for us to really know that that's how we would feel? But yeah, no, he went for the tits. So,
and I mean, that's a hard thing about exploring relationships with non-binary people, and being non-binary and exploring relationships with people who are not non-binary. And I certainly don't have any answers for any of that, but I understand and respect the way that scene was written and why Cal felt the way they did. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a very important part of representation that doesn't really get addressed very often.
Well, and I think too that, like, how or what one non-binary person feels is not what every non-binary person feels either.
Yes.
Like, I'll be completely honest, like, I identify as non-binary, but I like my tits being touched. I mean, we're talking about sex education, so I can be a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. We're sassy and sexy tonight, y'all.
Yeah. But, like, so, for me, it's like the way I feel. My feelings about being non-binary aren't that I don't hate the obviously female parts of myself, the obviously physically,
mm-hmm.
female parts of myself. And I mean, and I actually, not that I just don't hate them, I enjoy them. That doesn't mean that. But yeah, that's the thing about being non-binary. It is, I think, different for everybody who who identifies in that way. And, I like you said, I think that that's a really important aspect of being non-binary. That, I mean, I didn't really, even now, like thinking back on it, I was like, but did he really feel that way about them? But yeah, no, like, in their mind, because that's where he went, that's how it felt, and they weren't ready for that. And I think that, I hope that the two of them remain like friends, like really friends, and maybe in the future there's some more relationship stuff explored. I don't know that he will be ready for what they want or are ready for anytime soon, but I wish we'd known Cal before. It was season 3, I believe, when they were introduced. And they were just this, like, force of a character, right? Like,
yeah, it was amazing.
They come in and you see that, they brought out a whole, I think, different side of Jackson. They, they were that person fighting against Viv. They weren't the only non-binary person in the school. There was that other one who, I mean, I feel bad, but I don't remember their name because they, you know, whenever the head teacher was like, yeah, you have to do this, they were just kind of like, oh, I'm not really comfortable like fighting or whatever. And that's fine. Like that's, you know, some people want to fight the battles and some people don't. So yeah, Cal was really like a force in season 3 and also American and smoking pot all the time. And I was like, yes, I love you.
We love to see it.
I love you so much. I love your suits. I love everything about you. All right. So it's already 9:30. We still have a few more relationships to talk about. Okay. The rest of them are all Maeve and Otis things. So Maeve, and I actually have like double Maeve things in my list here. We don't need this one. Maeve had a lot of relationships. Maeve was with Jackson first. And that was like supposedly casual. And then Jackson was like, let me introduce you to my fam. And then Maeve was like, nah, this is for me. I didn't dislike the two of them, but I think that Jackson was trying to shoehorn her into, you know, he was trying to shoehorn her into his life, and then she introduced him to her brother, and then he became kind of like, then he was like shirking his like swimming and all sorts of stuff. So that was a big it was a big mess.
Mess for it.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna mute myself all the. Oh no, they didn't. I thought my dogs were gonna bark. Okay, so Maeve and Isaac.
Yeah.
That was a weird.
I didn't like any of that.
I didn't dislike all of it, but I really didn't like him going into her phone and deleting things.
It was like I appreciated, I don't know, there was an interesting premise for the like friendship relationship thing in season 2, and then it just lost me in season 3. Like the end of season 2 where he goes into her phone, and then like everything in season 3, I was just like, no. And it probably was like, you know, as soon as he violated that boundary, I was immediately like, okay, I hate you. You're the worst. Go away.
Yeah. I mean, he was also very like kind of mean and sarcastic to begin with. And I get that it was like some of that is his anger at his situation.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And he was involved in like the stuff with her mom too, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know, like, yeah, I feel like it was too much drama for it to ever be like a healthy relationship thing stuff. But yeah, once he violated her, not just privacy, but like straight up deleted shit from her phone.
Yeah. Like it wasn't even that he read an email or something. It's that he went in and like
listened and deleted and like messed with things. And also, who doesn't have a lock code on their phone that like
whatever. That's nuts to me too, but
okay, before we get into Maeve and Otis.
Yeah.
Otis and other people. Otis and Ola.
They were sweet.
Yeah, at first.
But I just never really liked them that much.
No. Mm-mm. I don't think they ever really had much in common.
Well, they're just like, to me, there wasn't like any chemistry. So
yeah. I mean, clearly there wasn't because he wasn't.
Yeah.
Poor Ola though. Poor Ola.
Ugh.
Like all that time. Well, and also like, but she was also super jealous of Maeve, and it's like she had good reasoning.
Yes.
But but the jealousy definitely didn't help things. It also it almost bordered on like a little bit of like not controlling on her part, but like it wasn't. It didn't just border on control because she told him he couldn't be friends with her, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is never a good kids. That is never an ultimatum you want to make because it is
kids,
never
adults,
going to work out.
Any people.
Yes, anyone who happens to be listening to this, whenever you are listening to this, don't make that ultimatum.
If somebody gives you that ultimatum, say, listen, I think you're a good, well, not always, but Ola was a good person and Otis cared about her. And like, listen, you're a good person, Ola. I care about you. But no.
But that's a real fucked up thing to tell me. And even if I agree to this term, it's going to pollute and make our relationship toxic.
Which is exactly
because it inevitably will.
Which is what it did with them too, because he agreed to it at first, but then it was like immediately like bad.
Yep. Exactly. People never learn.
Otis and Ruby.
I like
that was
Otis
weird as fuck.
It was weird as fuck. Like when it first, like at the beginning of the season, when this relationship got introduced, I was like, "What is happening? This is weird as hell." Weird teenager mustache. What the fuck is happening? But like, I really quickly was like, I actually really like them together.
Yeah, same.
And I was really sad when they broke up.
I was really sad that mostly for Ruby, really, because she brought him into her life in a way that she brought so few people and had never brought somebody she was dating.
Yeah, which was nuts.
Yeah, because her father had, what was it, MS?
Yeah. And,
God, when she was like, I love you, and he was like, oh, thanks, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember what his response was, but it was basically like, thanks.
It was bad. It was bad. And I was like, oh, like, I get it. You're teenagers, and obviously don't ever say I love you to somebody if you don't love them, but don't say I love you to somebody and then take it back. That sort of thing. But yeah, at the same time, I felt for her, which I never expected.
Right? Like, who would have thought in season 1 that in season 3 we would be like, poor Ruby. Like,
poor Ruby.
And I certainly never thought that I'd be like, man, Otis did Ruby wrong.
He did, though. Oh, God.
Yep.
Okay.
Otis was kind of a fuck. Like,
yeah, he's a little bit of a fuck boy.
Yeah.
Not a total fuck boy. Just
not a total fuck boy, but he's a little bit of a fuck boy.
Tendencies.
He has fuck boy tendencies for sure.
Okay, last but not least, Otis and me.
We got to talk about it.
Listen, we all knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like 3 seasons. It both felt like too long and also not long enough.
Yep.
Does it even matter? Because she's going to America.
Yep.
But yeah.
Like, good for them. Like, they both have wanted it since sometime in season 2. Like, we got to a point where they both wanted each other.
And then she wanted it. And maybe there was still some deep down part of him that wanted it, but he was with Ola. And then it was Jim and Pam, man. It's Jim and Pam. It's Leslie and Ben.
Bones and Booth. Like every
Yeah,
TV show that has the male and female character that aren't already together at the beginning of the show, that
they
whole
become
trope.
friends, and then like, yeah. So we all knew it was going to happen. And of course, like I was actually talking to my friend today, and she was like, I don't know how I feel about it. Like Otis and, because she had just finished watching the show today, and she was like, Otis and Maeve, they got together, but Maeve is going to America, and like, now what? And I'm like, yeah, it's like Jim and Pam. They finally got married, and then Jim like up and went to New York or wherever he went for like some sports job. Yep. And I don't know, like Leslie and Ben got together, and then Ben I think went to DC maybe. You always have to throw a wrench.
He actually went to London first, I think.
Maybe, but like you always have to throw a wrench in, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't. If the will they won't they couple gets together,
yeah,
that's going to end the show.
Yep.
If you're not careful. So Otis and Maeve are the will they won't they couple, and they got together. So now
she's going to America.
And Maeve going to America.
Yep.
Which I'm sorry.
Fuck yeah.
Don't come here, America. Or don't come here. Don't come to America. Literally, don't come to America. Nobody wants.
It's not a good call.
To be here right now. I mean, I don't know though. Like, so what are your thoughts on them actually being a couple? Like, it's always been will they, won't they? Could they actually work? I
don't know. I think they could. Yeah. I mean, they clearly have a good amount in common. They clearly care about each other as people, as well as romantically and sexually. So they have essentially what it takes to be a good couple. Whether they can actually do that or not, I have no idea. Like, I think probably Otis will be a fuck again. And we'll do something stupid that.
Oh no, is Otis really just a fuck boy? A little bit, a lot bit.
Yeah, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yes, it will. It will in season 4, which I'm sure we're getting. I've just assumed that it was renewed. I mean, the show was so popular on Netflix for even before the 3rd season came out. It was like already like trending because people knew that it was coming out. The 3rd season was coming out, and it is so damn good. Like,
it really is.
It's not. It doesn't troll you, or like it's not like shock jock type of, like it's got a lot of sex in it, but it's not like that shock jock level. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my God, this is what teens are doing nowadays. And it also isn't like preachy. It's like, it covers all the bases, I guess, mm-hmm. I think the best quote I found was that, bad education can be irreparably damaging, particularly in such formative years. And I got, like I said, I got lucky that I had my school, weirdly enough, this tiny, tiny little town in Connecticut, had a really good sex education teacher who tried her best. And she still had a lot of boundaries and got in trouble a lot. But, a lot of kids, even today, don't have sex education teachers who are going to teach them how to put a condom on a banana.
Yep.
Which sounds stupid, but for fuck's sake, you need to know how to put a condom on.
Yeah. Bare minimum, you should know how to put a condom on.
Yeah. Like, so, and also just the the respect that it gives to all sexualities, right?
Yes.
There's the whole storyline with the girl who is asexual.
One of the best portrayal or descriptions.
Hold on a second. Someone's playing.
Yep.
Okay. The whole storyline with the girl who's asexual, and it's like at first Otis is like, he doesn't give her the worst advice, but he doesn't give her the best advice. And then Jean gives her the best advice.
Yes.
Or the best, not even advice, but like just
making sure she feels seen and heard,
yeah,
which is so important.
Yeah.
And Jean's description of asexuality, which is where the girl actually realizes that she is asexual, was just such a good description. Like it's so well done, and yeah, those.
And that's a you know, that's a sexuality that is even, you know, I think it's more, it's covered more like today than it was even like a couple of years ago, but it's still not as mainstream and as kind of like, hey, like all other ones are okay, but also it's totally okay if you don't, you know, have that sort of drive, that you want connection, you want like mental and maybe even romantic connection without having to deal with like the physical end of it, or not deal with, but like you're just not interested, you don't want that, it's fine, that's fine. And I mean, I can't identify with that personally. I am probably the most like complete opposite of asexual, but I have friends who are asexual, and it's like watching them, you know, fight to be heard, and seeing that little plot line in this show was just like, yeah, this is, it's so, and it's a small part of such a larger show, but I think it's done so well, and it's showcased, you know, in just the right way, because she's the person, the girl who's asexual, who is like, why are we paying this dude for advice? You know what I mean? Like, so it's not just that that it's showcased that, you know, oh, asexuality exists. It's like that there's, you know, it's difficult to understand that, you know, aspect from, you know, Otis's point of view or whatever. But Jean, who is this extremely sexual person, is immediately like, oh, no, yeah, no, this is who you are. And it's totally fine. It's totally normal.
Almost like she actually has.
I don't even feel this way. This isn't who I am, but I love this.
Oh, I know. Like, it was such an emotional, like, beautiful scene and moment. Like, I've actually watched it several times just because, like, I've seen people share it and other things, but it's just such, we just don't see that kind of representation very often. And that's what, to your point, like, that's one of the things I love about the show, is that it's showing so many different kinds of representation. And it's not flawless, but it does such a good job, and clearly is trying to look at all of these different types of people, types of sexualities, types of identities, and give them all respect and space. And considering we've had 3 seasons now, I think each season's what, like 8 episodes, something like that, 6, 8 episodes. It's not the seasons are not long. And so you can't, like, there's not enough space to give every identity, every sexuality, all of those things, like, as much focus as we might want to see. I do think that they have done a good job of saying, like, look, there are all these different kinds of people. There are all these different ways to relate to sex and to identity, and showing pieces of that.
And I think what I've loved the most about it, and this is, this is coming from me. I'm looking at it. I've been trying to look at it as not me, an already informed person, but what if somebody who wasn't,
Yeah.
as informed as I was watching this? It's informative without being pushy.
Yep.
It's accepting without being accepting and progressive without being like, yeah, man, all these kids are just having sex like, it's not wrong. Like that one description I said where that said it was raunchy is like the only time I felt this show was raunchy was the human feces.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with sex.
Okay? Yeah, exactly.
Very clear. Very clear.
Yeah.
So I
completely agree with you.
And it's so like empathetic.
Yes.
Not sympathetic, empathetic, understanding of.
Yes.
Like, I actually have never really looked up anything about the writers for this show, but even with the things that I'm kind of about, and like we already talked about, like the whole Adam situation, I still feel like the people who write this show, they have to know these things because of their own lived experiences. Maybe some of it is just research, but if that's all it is, then they're not just reading articles. They are researching people's experiences, maybe asking their friends. I don't know. It is, I mean, I'm like almost choked up just thinking about it, because like I almost want to try to like hit up my like 15-year-old niece and be like, have you watched this show? Knowing her mom would never allow her to watch this show, right. But she needs to watch this show because I know she's not getting that education at home.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's sort of, that's sad. That's sad. But in South Carolina, she's also not getting it at school. Obviously. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I would put this in my like top 10 shows of all time so far, probably.
Yeah.
Just no show has ever made me cry happily this much. And just like, oh my God, like I am in my late 30s, and for the like one of the first times in my life, feel like I'm watching something where I feel like seen and understood. And this is about teenagers. I get that, but like, my God, if I had seen this when I was in, high school, like I can't even imagine. I
can't either. I so wish that this had been available when I was in high school, and I really it makes me so happy that you found out about it through your 15-year stepchild, because like that means that people who are like 15 years old watching this and getting that experience that I want for the people who need that. And it's so, it makes my heart warm.
Yeah, me too. And on that note, what would you rate this series out of 10?
Oh my gosh, like a 9.7. I don't like super high. Yeah. We've talked about some of the flaws. Like I feel like we've talked about enough flaws that I can't just give it a 10, but I kind of want to anyway. But I would still give it like a super high score, because like look at all the other stuff that's on TV, and there's stuff that I love that's on TV and that I watch constantly, and it's not on the same level. And I think part of it is what you were saying just a minute ago about the empathy that is clear in the writing. You don't get that a lot, and it's really great to see, and it's really great that it is having an impact on people who need to see that kind of content, including the two of us.
Yeah, even at our age,
like, even us oldies, like we are still getting that.
I think that's what's important, is that it can affect
Yeah.
you know, like we're looking at it from this sort of jaded, like, God, we had to go through so much. And I mean, everything I learned, you know, I learned a minimal amount in high school, and, you know, people tried. Again, I cannot, my sex education teacher in high school, I cannot praise her enough, like, for just being so forward for the mid to late 90s. And people used to make fun of her for teaching kids to put condoms on bananas. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but in the mid to late 90s, that's like, you shouldn't be making fun of her. Like,
Yeah.
she did that. We actually had very low teen pregnancy at my school, because that also could have been because we were like country. But you know, I mean, it's also, again, just like, I wish that I'd had this when I was younger. I think that there's a lot of things I would have realized or been more open about myself.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You know, like my own sexuality, my own gender identity. I shouldn't
Yeah.
have had to wait till I was like 37 to be like, oh, I think I'm non-binary. Oh, I think, yeah, I am non-binary. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
didn't really know that was a thing you could be. If I'd known that when I was in middle school, holy fuck, my whole entire life would have been so much different in like probably way better ways. If it was accepted the way it is now.
Fucking same. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, it's hard. Like, I think I would give it like a 9.5 out of 10, maybe a 9, but really probably a 9.5. I think the reason I would push it down to a 9 is only because there was some, you know, the Adam stuff was awkward. I also didn't love when Eric went to Nigeria.
Yeah.
That was really, I mean, it was like both like really nice, and also like, it was nice because it's like he got to see, you know, this sort of underground, you know, this thing exists here and these people exist here, but also they still have to remain hidden, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, so it was hard, but good, but hard. But also then he like cheated on Adam, I guess. So, you know,
Yeah.
cheating is never good, no matter what the relationship is. So yeah. Any other last thoughts before we close out?
No, I'm just looking forward to season 4, and it is confirmed. They have already greenlit it.
Well, I mean, they already greenlit it. Yeah, hopefully we won't have to wait 2 years. No,
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, once again, I'm Tara, along with Nick. I don't know where our other hosts are tonight. They disappeared.
I'm looking at you, Jonathan.
Once again, I'm Tara, along with Nick. Thank you for joining us for Sagas Sass, the Sassy and Sexy holiday special. We'll be back next year, which is literally in just a few weeks, for our 3rd season, which we are calling The Lore of Babel. It's going to cover the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft and the Gilded Wolves series, whose author I did not write down in this document, so I'm blanking on. But we're going to kick off the 3rd season, The Lore of Babel, with the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I'm really excited. The first 2 books were self-published, and I actually read them because he was a friend of a friend, and they were absolutely amazing. And he rightfully got picked up by Orbit, and the 3rd book got published by Orbit, and the 4th book just came out in November. So we're covering this like just after the whole series finished. Yay! So if you haven't read the Books of Babel, highly, highly suggest it. And we will start covering them mid-January. I think it's the 2nd Wednesday in January, I believe is what we decided on. So have a lovely night. Thank you for joining us. Happy holidays. Have a great Christmas, Kwanzaa. Hanukkah, I think, is already over, but I hope you had a great one. And New Year's. Bye.
Bye.